Well, that was absolutely embarrassing for 2 games in a row. I'm at a loss for words. I'm disappointed. I'm kind of actually frustrated and upset. Um, so we're gonna wait like a minute, and then you're gonna listen to me rant, and you guys are gonna listen to me tell it how I see it, and then we're gonna just look at the quote numbers. We're really gonna be looking at the Celtics numbers here because I don't even know if I want to look at the Suns numbers. And then we got some other things to talk about besides this embarrassing game. So before we get started, do me a huge favor, destroy that like button and share the stream if you want to. I understand if you don't want to share this stream because it's just going to be me ranting and bitching the whole time. But let me introduce my guest who was nice enough to join kind of last minute. Super Mario Hoops, man. Are you having a better night than I'm having? How's it going, man?
Well, I'm having a conflicted night because the Bulls actually won. So that's kind of good, kind of not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Should we go for Wembenyama or should we go all the way for the championship? I've been contemplating this for about like a week or so now. So I guess I can't. I'm definitely not as heated as you are, so I would have to say I am having a better night. Um, but I guess it is pretty rare, so I guess I'll take these like while I can get them. So yeah, it's going all right now.
Where do we even begin with this game? It was weird, man, because even though it seems like a lifetime ago, the first possession, Chris Paul gets the ball, runs up the floor. I think it was a pick and roll to Torrey Craig, or no, Mikal Bridges, excuse me, who like threw it down. And we're like, oh, Chris Paul's back. He's looking good. He had a few possessions after that where he looked pretty good. And then it kind of just went all downhill from there. DeAndre Ayton looked extremely slow. There's one Ayton play in particular I'd like to point out later. Uh, Devin Booker was cold again, pretty much. And really, how I knew the game was getting out of hand, kind of like in the Mavericks game, was I forgot what the score was, but all of a sudden the Celtics go on a 10-0 run. And then that led to a 17-2 run. They did all that within like a few minutes. And then I think at the end of the first quarter, it was a double digit lead. The Suns were shooting 36%. Yada, yada, yada. I could preach to you all day. I could break it all down. Then all of a sudden at halftime, 69-42, and it was pretty much over. Then that lead escalated even further up. And in short, guys, two back-to-back embarrassing losses. And look, I even jokingly tweeted this out that there's going to be some Suns fans that'll say, "Oh, it's December and these losses don't matter." Maybe they wouldn't matter if they were far apart. This is two back-to-back embarrassing losses.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to be a contender, and yeah, we probably still are. And yeah, we got our ass kicked by, I'm calling them now, the best team in the NBA. And we got our ass kicked to the Mavericks, who have the NBA's golden boy, Luka. I can't explain it. I literally am at a loss for words. Look, Suns Twitter's going nuts right now. And look, I am guilty of contributing to that. I was doing a lot of tweeting tonight. I was letting my frustration and anger out on Twitter. Look, we can blame James Jones. We can blame Monty Williams. We can blame DeAndre Ayton. We can blame Devin Booker. Literally, from top to bottom, everyone deserves blame, including myself, including Suns fans, which we're going to talk about this later. The Suns fans, the quote Suns fans that sold their tickets to Celtics fans deserve blame tonight. Celtics fans took over our home game tonight. I can break down all the numbers for you. I can talk about what I saw, but what I saw was just a legit embarrassing performance tonight. Maybe a couple players showed up. Josh Okogie, I guess, for the second game in a row. I'm at a loss for words. So Super Mario Hoops, I don't know, man. Give me your opening thoughts, reaction. If you want to tell me what the Celtics did, because I was just watching the Suns. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even see what the Celtics did, except for Tatum and Brown kicked our ass.
Yeah. I guess I could start with the Celtics at first. I mean, first of all, like this team just as a whole is definitely playing. Yeah, they're definitely playing like the best team in basketball. And I think they deserve credit for that. like they're just so well rounded, and all their guys, they basically switch everything. They don't bite. Like it's pretty rare that they ever do bite defensively. But basically everyone's capable of switching on everything, and everyone gives like maximum effort on that team. Like I guess like to start off, not the ideal person I would probably talk about like when thinking of the Celtics, but like Blake Griffin, for example. Like he's someone who they basically picked up. It seemed like he might have been near the end of his career or something like that. He started a few games for him this year. I know the other day he had
I love Blake Griffin, dude. Legit love him.
it kind of got overshadowed the day Kawhi had his game winner.
Yeah.
But he had a season high that night too. And now tonight, like he almost puts up a double double. Dare I say? I mean, he
Outplayed DeAndre
outplayed
Ayton. Just
DeAndre
say it.
Ayton.
Just
Yeah,
say it, dude. Like he did.
he outplayed DeAndre Ayton. He did. In less time too. So yeah, I mean, he was definitely killing it on the glass, and hitting threes as well. Like I I I mean, he hit what, three all in the third quarter.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I
he's
think you
just
sent me a message saying Blake Griffin drained a three. And so you said something like that, like it's over. I was like, yep.
yeah. But he's just an energy guy that you definitely need. I mean, their bench as a whole, I think this is probably the biggest difference that I knew like coming into the game, that I probably trusted them over you guys. And I mean, it's just because like Derek White's having a career year. He's shooting 40% from three. Sam Hauser's kind of came out of nowhere. We know Peyton
Dude.
Pritchard, what he can
Yeah.
bring. Luke Cornett tonight, like he went 6 of 6. And Malcolm Brogdon, who, I mean, I think he's the clear favorite right now for sixth man of the year.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not even close either. I mean, he's leading the league in 3-point percentage, averaging like almost 14, 15 a game off the bench. He's an elite playmaker, an elite defender. And,
He's a
the
smart
team
player
is,
too, man.
yeah,
High
the
basketball
team's,
IQ.
I still personally believe, I mean, this could be a different discussion. I still believe he's probably the third best player on this team. I know a lot of people value Smart's defense and
Yeah.
his energy, and also Rob Williams when healthy, but I don't know. I feel like Malcolm Brogdon is really significant. And like I said, I think he's the sixth man of the year leader so far this season. And then you got a guy like Grant Williams who, he played an efficient game. He couldn't really miss from three. We already know like what Marcus Smart can bring. Really, Grant Williams, I feel like would normally be kind of like in a 6-man role too on this roster. So I mean, you also got to factor that in. He'd kind of be alongside Brogdon on the bench. Jaylen Brown, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit because of his,
Facts.
He's kind of taken a step up this year too, but it's kind of been a little overshadowed because
Jason Tatum's
of
playing
Jason
amazing.
Tatum,
Yep.
and I mean, that's also rightfully so. I know I'm talking about like this guy deserves this guy deserves that, but I would also probably say that Jason Tatum's probably the front runner for MVP as well. Like right now, I mean, best player on the best team, and he's playing like really good on both ends of the floor. So I
Dude.
think like, wait, go ahead. Sorry
to cut you off. When you're
No, you're good.
21-5 now, with all the turmoil that the Celtics had coming into the season, like not winning a championship, the Ime Udoka stuff, yada yada yada, you can be overlooked like that, and you can have players that just step up off the bench. You can have your Blake Griffins and Sam Hausers and Malcolm Brogdons, and I think it's a compliment to Jaylen Brown that he's being overlooked because he's playing just as good as Jason Tatum, pretty much. So I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's all I wanted to say. When you're 21-5, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that also gives credit to Joe Mazzulla too, who, to come into that role is kind of like an interim. Like you could argue he's the coach of the year right now.
Facts. You already won coach of the month.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that, but I don't know. I think overall, like they're what they look like. They are the team to beat before the season. I think Vegas had them as like the odds-on favorites to win the championship this year. So, I mean, right now it's looking very, true, very possible. But I guess like with the Suns, I mean, they just like tonight, it seemed like no position was like executed well for their team. Like when you think of like every position, you think of like a point guard, you think of someone who's like a primary facilitator, playmaker for others. Like nobody was getting everyone involved in this team. I think they had like a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio tonight or something like that.
Ugh.
Like they had like 18 assists, 18 turnovers or something. Like that's terrible.
Yeah,
Right?
you're right. 19 assists, 18 turnovers. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
in terms of like you think of a shooting guard, that's someone who can, shoot effectively from three. Um, Really nobody did that except maybe Okogie and Shamit, and I think most of those were kind of in garbage time anyway. So, they were what, 1 of 16 at halftime? Like they couldn't make
Yeah.
anything. And you didn't get that efficient shooting from really anyone on the squad. When you normally think of a small forward, I feel like you normally think of maybe like also like kind of a 3 and D wing that can more so like kind of who's going to guard maybe the best perimeter player on the other team. Well, clearly that didn't happen because Tatum went off and Brown went off and Grant Williams went off, right? Like all these forwards on their team were going off. Nobody was on Brogdon, Luke Cornett, 6 for 6. Like all these matchups were just getting exposed by the Celtics. When you think of a four, I feel like you normally think of at least like a 2-level scorer, maybe. I
Yeah.
mean, there's really no one that was doing that. And then when you think of a big man, we already talked about like DeAndre Ayton. I mean, Biombo got a couple minutes at the end there. Jock Landale, he really didn't do like anything tonight.
He
Like,
has
I mean,
regressed so much. I don't know what happened to Jock. I think I jinxed him. No, you were talking about jinxing certain
mhm.
teams and all that. I made all these videos about Jock Landale. I was all hyping him up, and he has just not played well, man, like at all.
Blake Griffin and Luke Cornett together. So tonight they combined for 21 points, 11 rebounds, and shot 9 of 12 from the field and 3 of 4 from three. I mean, that's like an all-star level center contributions.
Yeah.
And nobody was able to do that like for the Suns tonight. Like I said, they just didn't have any position. And I actually pulled out like I know I didn't pull up too many stats because like what stats can really define this game other than the fact that the Suns just got destroyed.
Yep.
But I know you don't really like. I know you said before you're not really a huge fan of plus minus.
Mhm.
But I was looking through.
Changed my
Um,
mind on it. I mean,
I
maybe I
was just
can be.
I was just looking through in history. So, like with a few key players, so Chris Paul, for example, this is his second worst plus minus game in the last 10 seasons. Um, that's atrocious, right? I mean, you think about how many years. I mean, Chris Paul's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think this is his second worst regular season plus minus game over the last 10 years. That's pretty atrocious. DeAndre Ayton, this is his second worst ever. The last time was worse was in 2019. That was when you
Yeah.
guys won like 19 games.
Yep.
Same thing with Mikal Bridges. This is his second worst ever. Last time was in 2019. And then Devin Booker, minus 40, which, first of all, that's the worst of any player
Yep.
in a game this season. And then that's also the second worst of his career. The last time he had any game worse uh, was 2016 against the Jazz. That's when guys like you remember Ronnie Price
Yeah,
and
he was a
Archie
consultant
Goodwin
for the Suns for a
and,
while.
and Alan Williams and John Lure and Mirza
Hey, don't
Teletovic.
disrespect my boy Alan Williams. I love that guy, man.
No,
Big
Mirza
sub.
Teletovic was a bucket too.
Facts.
But this is like how the league, this is what was in the league at this time. Jeff Withey was playing on the Jazz.
I
Kobe
forgot
hadn't
about
even
that guy.
retired yet. Kobe had not dropped 60 in his final game yet at the time of this. So I mean it was just pathetic, I think. And again, like plus minus isn't like a end all be all stat. Like people aren't going to look at this and be like, "Oh, Devin Booker's the worst player in the NBA now because he has the worst plus minus in a single
Yeah.
game." Like that's not how that works. But it just shows that the effort by the Suns starters was pretty abysmal tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, how many open threes did they get? Like you sent me the one where
Yep.
Grant Williams got it like when they went up 19, and I was sitting here like right in my chair and I'm watching and I just said timeout
Yep.
like before he even shot the ball because I knew it was going to be a timeout because it was just lazy.
Yep.
Only if maybe he like missed, maybe he wouldn't have called it. But I at that point I kind of knew he was going to make it. So, not to be like LeBron and I predicted everything, but you know what I mean. So, but yeah,
Real quick, let me pull up that play because this is just a good example of just some of the problems the Suns had tonight. This was kind of, I mean, let's be real. You could argue the game was already over before this happened, but this is when I think I really knew that it was over. Let me mute this so I don't get copyrighted. Uh,
yeah, this is the one.
yeah, right here. So look, I mean, we're gonna legit watch this like 100 times. So
Yeah.
I can actually slow it down too.
Timeout.
Sort of. Let me just slow it down.
Timeout. That's right when I said it. You know.
So let's look now. Look, I only up. It's like a 7-second clip. So you see Paul is trying to box out Blake Griffin, and then Ayton's over here, and Booker and all them. And then look, like Grant Williams catches the ball. That the Suns are just standing there. And sure, Chris Paul's there, but like who was guarding Grant Williams right there? And how did that breakdown happen? And then look, CP3 just kind of waddles over there, puts a hand up, and I don't know, man. I mean, and I'm legit speechless. Like that was when I knew it was over.
I feel like in this lineup, like it probably would be like either Chris Paul or I mean, I'm not saying like this is what they're matched up as, but either Chris Paul or Booker should probably just take Grant Williams like before the possession even started. I mean, he's more of a spot up shooter. He's not going to put the ball on the ground that much.
Yeah.
I'm looking like you already got Brown out there. Like Mikel's probably going to guard him. Who else was out there? Shamit at the time.
Yeah, let's see. There's Shamit. There's like Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Bridges.
Yeah. Like I'd probably put Shamit on Derek White. So either probably Paul or Booker would guard Grant Williams in that instance. But of course, like I didn't see anyone guarding Blake Griffin, like you said, like right when Paul was down there. So it's like, what's Ayton doing at that point?
Real quick, you probably watched more Blake Griffin than I did tonight, but I remember a couple plays in particular, like Blake Griffin would like grab an offensive rebound. Or like at least get like a tip back, when DeAndre Ayton was on him. It was just that hustle and effort. And then you said that he knocked down a couple threes. I think at one point, and this was, I think, before halftime, the Suns had called a timeout. The Celtics scored like 5 straight points after that. And then the Suns turned it over like 5 times in a row. This game was just legit a disaster. And it just kept getting worse. And this is kind of why I'm just highlighting this one play. That's why I tweeted it out. And I just said embarrassing. Like this is just, and look, there's Suns Twitter right now is in a huge outrage, and there's people blaming DA and there's people blaming Chris Paul. I cannot repeat this enough. It is a legit team effort. We got our asses kicked tonight. There's no other way to put it. I'm trying to look at all the reference notes that I took down, and it's just, I mean, somebody summed it up perfectly. Chris Paul was subbed out around like the 4-ish minute mark of the first quarter. Celtics go on a 26-10 run. Like, I can't explain what happened tonight, man. Jason Tatum was absolutely incredible. There's that one play where we like spun around Booker and then kind of went like Allen Iverson style and flipped it up and in. Like, I mean, I don't know, man. I legit just don't know. Like, should I just pull up the stats again? And can we just talk about the Celtics? Because I don't even want to talk about the Suns. Like,
yeah, I will say though too, like I don't want if I'm a Suns fan, I wouldn't want really someone like Cameron Payne to I guess assert himself into a role that maybe he was getting a little familiar with when Chris Paul was out, and obviously Cam Johnson's been out, but like now Chris Paul's back. Like when Cam Johnson comes back, like these opportunities, like you're probably not going to get this many opportunities in the game. I mean, I know there was probably a lot more bench minutes per se, but I feel like Cameron Payne still got like decent minutes in the game before it was kind of like, all right, we're throwing in the white towel or whatever. And he still took 13 shots, which outside of Booker and Okogie kind of got more minutes, I feel like, in the garbage time, more percentage of his minutes in the garbage time than Cameron Payne. So essentially it's like you're almost getting the second most shots. I don't know if that's going to be a recipe for success for the Suns. Maybe once every now and then if they're really giving it to you, but they weren't giving it to him. And like just by watching Cameron Payne, like I saw one play where, Brogdon was on him and he would stunt really good. Same thing with Derek White. And they would keep stunning at him and forcing him into bad shots, which he didn't shoot great tonight. I mean, he shot 0 of 2 from 3. I know one of them for sure was a contested 3 that he just took over Luke Cornett, no ball movement or anything. And I'm like, I feel it just kind of felt like he was just trying to get his because of how many shots he's been accustomed to lately. Like, and I know Chris Paul's not going to take that many shots away per se. He only took 6 tonight, but I don't want him to like think like, okay, now I'm like a primary scorer on this team. Like you just gotta do like what's best for the team. And I
Yeah.
think tonight too, like, I mean, still scored about 100 points. It wasn't even really a good shooting game. And sometimes shots just won't fall, but still scored just under 100 points. I mean, that's not really terrible considering how you guys shot, but you know, defense really wasn't great. And then also, like I said, the playmaking sucked. I mean, it was almost a 1-to-1 ratio with assists and turnovers. Like,
Yep.
be that elite playmaker off the bench. You know, don't try and like act like, okay, I need to be like a combo guard or something, like a Ricky Davis, or I don't even know, like a Nick Young, or someone who's just like almost always looking to score or something like that.
I I don't know, man. Like, I wish I had, I don't know if it's Dave or Dav Ford's positivity here. I feel like people are overreacting once again. Well, with all due respect, sir, go back and watch the last two games, or this game and the Mavericks game, and tell me if we're overreacting, because this is bad. I mean, we're supposed to be, one of the best teams in the West, and we're getting blown out back to back nights. And it's like, I don't know, man. And so I've seen it in the chat. People are saying, like, we play the Pelicans next, who I always love to remind Suns fans, they almost beat us in the playoffs. They're playing really good right now. They're actually number one in the West as we speak. They have former Phoenix Suns assistant coach as their current head coach, Willie Green. They have some personnel over there who knows the Phoenix Suns pretty well. So, and we play them like 3 times in the next like week or so. And I'm very furious. I'm upset. I'm trying to read and get to everybody's chat and everything, but I don't know,
As
man.
long
It's
as
a
you
bad
guys
night.
can like split the two, like you guys played back-to-back games in New Orleans.
Yep.
Like as long as you guys can split that, like maybe win one of the two and then win the one that you guys host on the 17th, like I mean, I think that should be pretty good. I mean, I would expect you guys to beat the Rockets, beat the Lakers, the Wizards, maybe not the Clippers. Although, like I said, that is like a back-to-back for them, so I don't even know who would be playing that game, but um, you
Ooh,
know what to say.
real quick, Celtics stat here. I actually didn't know this till I did like some quote homework on the Celtics. Coming into this game, the Celtics are like 5-0 on like the second night of back-to-backs or something like that. I forgot where I read that. It might have been like ESPN or something like that. And that kind of got me thinking of the Suns, because we've been trash in back-to-backs pretty much. I don't know why. I just wanted to go on that little rant real quick. And by the way, the Celtics are now 17-2 since starting 4-3 on the season. So, best team in the NBA, straight up. That's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I still think it's funny. That's one Cavs fan said something like, how the heck did we beat the Celtics twice? And I'm wondering the same thing with that about the Bulls. How did we beat them twice?
I said that in my video earlier because I was talking about Chris Paul, and then I kind of did like a preview. So here's all the Celtics losses. They have obviously 4 points to the Heat, 32 points, a total of 32 points to your Bulls, which I think we talked about that on a stream. The Cavs twice by 10 or 11 points.
And both those went to overtime, really. So it kind of was like a neutral in a way.
And now they're 8. They've won 8 out of their last 9. So
yeah, and I don't get the Bulls. I mean, like this is just like why the Bulls make no sense. They'll destroy the freaking Celtics, then they'll lose to the Spurs, the Thunder, the Wizards, the Magic at home. Like literally awful. Don't want to talk about that mid team.
Hey, I mean, your team's probably playing better than the Suns are right now. So
yeah, we're on a 1-game winning streak. Let's throw a freaking parade.
Let me just
30 years ago, we celebrated 72-10 and winning 6 championships in 8 years with Jordan and unanimous youngest MVP in D Rose. Now we're celebrating beating the Washington Wizards.
Can we just real quick? There's just a couple things I would like to talk about, and then we can move on from this embarrassment of a game. I don't really know why I want to talk about this. I do just kind of want to let Suns fans know, and I even tweeted this out. I wish I would have gotten the video of it, but pretty much. And look, I hate to pick on DeAndre Ayton here because, again, I'm not really fully blaming him for tonight's loss. He is part of it, and he doesn't even deserve the drop tonight. And I even tweeted this out. There was one player in particular, and this really happened all night. Like I saw Grant Williams get like an easy rebound, and he took his time going up and just put it back in, for example. We kind of talked about the Blake Griffin stuff, and players just grabbing rebounds and yada, yada, yada. I'm not blaming this whole loss on DeAndre, but at the pretty much the start of the game, I want to say midway through the first, there was one play where, well, really lots of plays where Ayton was just really slow to start. And then I think Ayton missed like a shot and he didn't get called for a foul. And he legit walked up court as slow as possible. I think Marcus Smart ran up to the hoop and just kind of flipped it up, and there was no defense. And Booker literally went like this, telling him to get back on defense twice. And then I think it was Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson talked about it. They said Devin Booker just told DeAndre Ayton twice to get back on defense. That is one thing that Ayton needs to address and like immediately. As great as he's been playing as of late, that shows like kind of the maturity. And I'm always criticizing DA on that. I'm like, get back on defense. Maybe you can argue with the ref like 2 seconds, but get your ass back on defense. I'm not saying that like DeAndre Ayton getting back on defense would have changed the outcome of this game, but it's just something I wanted to vent and rant on. I'm just double checking my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. Also, I said this to you too. And the real Suns fans know who the real Suns fans are. There's lots of people in the Suns community who have been following this team for as long as I can remember, probably for as long as they can remember, before the Booker years, before we got DeAndre Ayton. Even tonight, these people were trashing the Phoenix Suns. So that just goes to show how terrible of a loss it is. And honestly, besides like the NBA standings watch and the newest Jae Crowder thing, we can pretty much talk about whatever at this point. But let me just kind of end, and we can maybe get your final thoughts on this game. Let me just kind of end it at this. So shout out to Dave King over at Bright Side of the Sun. He's at like every game to my knowledge. He tweeted this out earlier and it really bugged me. It brought back bad memories. He tweeted out, Suns fans sold a lot of their tickets for this game to Celtics fans, more than I'm used to hearing the last couple of years. And then Michael, who's a great follow on Twitter, I think he does some work for StatMoves, like graphic design work or whatever. He said, definitely noticeable. That brought back bad memories. And I know the Suns got trashed, against the Mavericks, and they got trashed tonight. They got absolutely embarrassed, but it brought back memories to November, I think 9th of 2019, when I was actually at a game and I uploaded this video. Now, this isn't the full video. This is just a clip of the video. I tweeted it out. Follow me on Twitter. Check out this 25-second clip from 2019. And yes, you pointed that out earlier. It was an overtime loss, but the whole purpose of that video was just to show. And yeah, we sucked back then. I get it. And I said this to you. I'm not saying there's not real Celtics fans in Phoenix. I said Boston. I'm not saying there's not real Celtics fans in Phoenix. There's fans all over the place. You were saying that. Didn't you say something about that? Like we're Bulls fans or whatever? Did you say something like that?
Yeah, like even last year in Staples, like when DeRozan was going off and we were blowing him out, like he was getting MVP chants and stuff like that, and there were Bulls fans chanting. And then after that, they said we're changing the name from Staples, so he basically ended Staples Center.
I guess my point is I guess maybe on the exception tonight, because the Suns deserve to have their arena, taken over by Celtics fans. I guess we just need to do better as Suns fans. But I will say, and I'm not trying to sound like the gatekeeper of all Suns fans, but pretty sure half of those fans that did sell the tickets were probably bandwagon fans. I just had to go on that rant real quick. It's embarrassing. And tonight was embarrassing, top to bottom. I could point out the positives, like Josh Okogie, 28 points, career high. But with all due respect to Josh Okogie, who I know works his ass off in practice and in games, if he's your leading scorer,
game over.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't even know if I want to talk about any more of this game. So any final thoughts in terms of just this Anybody that stood out to you? Is there anything we forgot to talk about? Chat's blowing up right now, and I wish I could get to everybody. I'll try. But any final thoughts, man?
Just for me, I mean, there's not much else to say other than the Celtics just smoked them. But
Facts.
I'm just really I'm really impressed like with Malcolm Brogdon's like in a 6-man role, especially. I've always been high on Malcolm Brogdon like for years. But I kind of like thought when he came here, I'm like, I don't know why they just don't start him. Maybe bring Horford off the bench or whatever. Who, I mean, he didn't even play tonight, but like, or Smart off the bench just because I thought that highly of Brogdon too. But
someone said Walter Davis era. I don't know what they're talking about.
He's but yeah, he's bought into that role pretty nicely, and I do think he will be 6-man of the year. So I'm speaking into existence from now until the end of the year. And hopefully, nothing crazy happens, but otherwise, I don't know. I think that, yeah, I don't know. Celtics are just a good team.
Yep. When we did that episode of Baloney Basketball, we knew that. And then coming into this game and I don't know, man. I'm out of words. I'm at a loss. And this kind of leads into our next segment here. By the way, if you guys are watching in the chat, we got like 35 people in here. You guys are awesome for watching me rant and be super upset right now. But this kind of leads into our next segment. I'm not saying a Jae Crowder trade will solve all of the Suns' problems because clearly we have lots of issues right now. And a Jae Crowder trade most likely won't solve all those problems. But a source that I trust, somebody who is a friend of the channel, who's been on this channel, I need to get him on more. But, real life comes first. He's busy. I'm busy. Flex from Jersey, who was the man who pretty much tweeted out the Chris Paul trade before it even happened. I mean, I think he was ahead of this before, I think who originally, I don't know, Brian Windhorst or whoever, Shams, whoever had it first. Flex was on this. This was early 2020, like July, mid 2020. You know what I mean? Anyways, point being, you're like, what's the point, Sons Geek? He tweeted this out earlier. Can confirm from multiple sources that the Suns are interested in and have had multiple conversations about Kyle Kuzma. A deal between Phoenix, Atlanta, and Washington has been discussed. Kuzma has always been a player of interest to James Jones and the Suns, and I'm told the interest is mutual. Now, look, with all due respect to my guy Flex from Jersey, this is just another Jae Crowder rumor that I'm sick of talking about. And of course, I'm sure the Suns have had a million conversations with probably every team in the league. Let's be real, dude. It takes an hour or two to have a conversation like this, maybe less. Hey, what do you want for Kyle Kuzma? Hey, what do you want for player X, Y, and Z? Cool. Well, that trade's not happening, or you have to throw in a draft pick, which, by the way, the Suns do have all their draft picks. So just I feel like we talked about this a week ago, when we were last live. But it is good that I consider somebody a reliable source. Flex from Jersey is tweeting this out. Any thoughts on this? I mean, I feel like you did a pretty good job of summing up the Jae Crowder rumors and all that last time, but any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think, Kyle Kuzma, for instance, I mean, first of all, I think he's having a really good season. I think he not enough people are probably giving him the credit he deserves. Probably
he's been solid.
The most impressive part of the Wizards season so far. I mean, Porzingis was also playing really well too. I think he's kind of fizzled out a little bit recently, but Kuzma, he's kind of played really good from all year long. And then as for, this trade in particular, he's been someone who I've seen in trade rumors, not only with just Phoenix, but also think I think the Mavericks as well, and then also the Hawks for John Collins. That was kind of one of the major ones, but I don't know, maybe they could work out a 3-team trade where Kuzma goes to the Suns and Jae Crowder goes to Atlanta, and then John Collins goes to Washington or something like that. Maybe that could work out best for everyone involved, but I don't know. I think I'm just kind of wondering where Kyle Kuzma would fit in in this team, because I feel like he's kind of like a similar build, maybe like, size wise, offensively, like fit wise, as like what Cam Johnson brings. So like, would
Yeah.
you, kind of just, I feel like a little bit better. So like, would you bring Kuzma off the bench as like a six man, or like, would you,
Would you
you know,
start him?
start him or
Especially with
something
Cam
like that?
Johnson's injuries, even though Torrey Craig's been playing solid.
And would Kuzma embrace a six man role? Because it seems like
Exactly. Yeah.
to me, like, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people actually talking about him recently. I think I saw one report today. It was some random executive in the East. It was like an anonymous thing. Said like, I don't think Kuzma could ever be a first or second option on a legit team or something. And I'm not saying he needs to be that in
He's a solid player.
Phoenix, but although he's actually averaging more points per game than any Suns player besides Booker right now. But the
Jesus.
yeah, the, I don't know for sure. I would have to double check, but I think he is
You're
good.
probably right on that.
Yeah. But the point is, like, I don't know if he'd really want to embrace like a bench role per se. Especially it's so young in his career. I mean, this is why I was just raving about Brogdon, like,
Yeah.
because Brogdon's still young, and like, I guess to embrace a bench role at this part of his career probably seems, a little bit premature, but also like very mature to actually take that role. Premature isn't early is what I meant. But like for Kuzma, I mean, he's what, in his 6th year.
Pulling
Half of
up his
those years
basketball reference page right now.
he's spent getting slandered basically by Laker Nation that, oh, he's never going to be good enough or anything. Like, I think he kind of like wants to have more time at proving people wrong. So I'm not entirely sure if it would fit so well with uh the Suns, especially. I know offensively he brings a lot. Rebounding wise, he definitely helps. Um, but defensively, probably not, doesn't add too much to the team. But I don't know. I think like the Jae Crowder stuff, it's gonna keep happening.
Yep.
There's definitely gonna be a trade for Jae Crowder before the deadline. So in the next like what 2.5 months that is, or 2 months or whatever, you're gonna see a trade because he's literally just gonna walk in the summer if not. So, and I know some teams have definitely been calling him. They've definitely been at least somewhat interested. Like
Oh yeah.
they're gonna pull the trigger on one of these trades eventually. It's just a matter of time, and getting closer to the deadline and seeing like which one they want. I mean, the Sixers kind of did that with Ben Simmons, who, at that point people still thought like, oh, he was just an all-star the year before, like he could still, show that potential next year. And he had so many more years on his contract as well. Like, I mean, Jay Crowder, it's kind of like it's either now or never for this contract situation. You could add like someone who could be the sixth man on this team, or maybe an elite big man, or an actual true point guard or something. Derrick Rose.
So
no,
real
but yeah.
quick, sorry to cut you off. Real quick, and Chuckster did a great job kind of bringing this up, and I probably should have said it before he brought it up. That's kind of the problem with this Jay Crowder trade. And sure, would I love Kyle Kuzma? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got done just talking really well about him. And by the way, he is scoring more points than the Suns' second best
Okay.
scorer, which
Yeah,
is like
I
8 and
thought
17 a
he
game.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. So good call on that. But the problem is, and look, and according to the Athletic, Tommy Shepard, their GM, did say we have great respect for Kyle Kuzma, and he's clearly their best player right now. So like, why, even if they're like a mid, fighting for the play-in tournament team, you probably don't want to trade Kyle Kuzma unless the Wizards are legit thinking of blowing it up. And who knows what's going to happen with those Bradley Beal. I mean, Bradley Beal's probably never getting traded. We could talk about that whole segment about how he said no one wanted me and I couldn't win anywhere else. That was ridiculous. But anyways, I guess my whole point is the Wizards aren't going to trade Kyle Kuzma for Jay Crowder. There would have to be a lot more involved in that deal.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe the Suns could sweeten the deal and throw in player X, Y, and Z and draft picks, but and look, and that's no disrespect to Jay Crowder either. It's just I can't see a Kyle Kuzma getting traded for a Jay Crowder. But I guess it's kind of interesting that, and whether people believe Flex or not, whether Shams, has his sources and all that, I don't know. Like I can't see a trade happening, but would I love a Kyle Kuzma? Sure. And you're right. Like, where would he fit? I can maybe see him coming off the bench for a little bit, but I don't think that would last long. I mean, the dude has won a championship and pretty solid player in this league. And you talked about how he's like trying to prove himself.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on the Wizards, man. And he could, come over to the Suns and have a Hall of Fame point guard, rolling with him and everything and help him out a lot. But I'd stay on the Wizards. And I can't see a scenario unless like James Jones legit works some magic and somehow lands Kyle Kuzma for a Jae Crowder plus X, Y, and Z draft picks, whatever. Can't see a scenario.
I just feel like fit matters too. Like in terms of off the bench, I don't know how well he'd embrace that role. And you see some people that maybe they get into a certain role and then they're uncomfortable and like they just start performing, poorly. Like that was, I know now he's been coming off the bench, but isn't that kind of like what Westbrook said in like the first preseason game where Darvin Ham put him on the bench and he's like, oh, I was in a completely different rhythm, like I've never done this before. So, like I need some time or something like that. Or like, I can't just be like thrown into the bench situation. So like we've seen situations like that, but I also just don't know how well he'd fit in, like starting like with this crew, like alongside Mikal, like as like the 3 and 4, and then Aiden at the 5. I think I value fit a lot, and I just, even though those are all three, great players when they're at their best, I just don't know if it would work together like those three. So I feel like, I mean, if they wanted to do a Jae Crowder trade for Kyle Kuzma, I'm sure they could probably do it. It would probably have to take Crowder. You probably would have to give up another player that's been playing really well that's still young, which would likely either be either Cam Johnson or Cameron Payne, which might be tough. And then it makes you think like, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
I feel
That's
like
where I
Cameron
went back to the Crowder thing. I'm like, is it really worth trading? Like, or even just Kyle Kuzma? Like the Wizards, I think Suns fans forget. Sure, all these teams have players that are, we're interested in Jordan Clarkson or Kyle Kuzma. That doesn't mean they're available for trade. You know what I mean?
I still think, and I know I've obviously joked about it, but I still think a Jae Crowder for Derrick Rose trade would benefit both sides. And I'm not even joking. It gives you guys like a consistent playmaker.
We got to have an emergency podcast or show if that happens.
He always shows up in the playoffs. And right now, like the Knicks are hardly using Derrick Rose. Obviously the Suns and Jae Crowder, like they're not using him at all because Jae Crowder doesn't want to be there. Yeah. And the Knicks are interested in Jae Crowder. So it's like, I feel like that works out well. That's just me though. And also like if Cameron Payne wants to have games like tonight where he wants to act like a shooting guard, then so be it, because Derrick Rose will put you in those positions to act as the combo guard, and he could be like the true playmaker off the bench. But yeah, and even get big minutes if Chris Paul's injured again. So
Zona Hoops, who like does work for Bright Side of the Sun and his own website, he's a good follow on Twitter, big Suns fan and everything. He tweeted out earlier in this trade, and I hate to go to the trade machine and everything, but he went to the trade machine and it was approved on there. Cam Reddish, Emmanuel quickly for Jae Crowder. I doubt the Knicks would do that, but he tweeted that earlier. I thought it was funny. I'm like, that's not happening. But Cam Reddish, I've always been a fan of, and I know that Quickly's kind of had a rough season. To my knowledge, he's had a rough season. But
I actually think that would. I'm not gonna lie. I think that would make the Suns worse. Like I do. I think Cam John or not.
He's
Cam
like
John.
two wings for one.
I think Cam Reddish is, he can score, at a solid level, but I also feel like he kind of maybe gets caught up maybe too much within himself than the team, what's best for the team. I feel you see it sometimes with Michael Porter Jr. It's just that maybe he's just too lazy to actually create a shot, and rather he's more of like a catch and shoot type of style. But and then Emmanuel Quickly is just awful.
I know the Knicks were kind of high on him, and he had flashes.
Nah,
he's been bad.
He is bad, and I apologize if there's any Knicks fans in here. I don't really slander players like that, but he's just not good at basketball. Like, I'm sorry. Like
I'm better than he is. No, I'm just kidding.
I might be. I'd take that challenge.
I agree with this gentleman here. I don't want to butcher his name, man. Bring back Daniel Ife Lundberg, Gabriel Ife Lundberg, man, played for us last year. The first, he might have been the first or second Dutch player in the league, and he played hard for us, but he didn't really get the time to shine.
trade for Eric Gordon. Eric
Yeah.
Gordon wanted to come there about 10 years ago. I still remember that. Signed the offer sheet.
Dude, there's a
everything.
famous photo of a welcome to Eric Gordon cardboard thing. And I have that photo on my computer somewhere, but yeah, we legit almost landed
mad.
him.
He was so mad, like when they matched the offer in like New Orleans.
Dude, we had like a red carpet and he like walked it. Like it was I need to make a video on that. Like I should have. That was before I like started like really uploading videos, but
that was legendary.
Yeah. Did I not say Danish player? I don't know what I said. I'm sorry, guys. My mind is so like fried right now. I don't know, guys. But point being is that the Suns need help. I don't know if a Kyle Kuzma trade is going to get it done. I don't know if a Jae Crowder trade is going to get it done. Any final thoughts on this kind of developing rumor? I consider it because I trust Flex from Jersey. Any final thoughts?
I mean, I kind of have a hate-love relationship with trade rumors just because, like, at the same time, it's like
this.
At the same time, it's like I just want to think something to happen already so we can stop talking about it. But at the same time, it's like, well, then it's gonna happen, and then like there's nothing else that maybe you could do or that you could hope for that a team does to actually like change their roster. And I feel like a change in scenery, like it's always something that people look forward to.
Sometimes that helps players, yeah.
So I would just say to all the Suns fans to be patient because I know Charles Barkley has his own thing, but I have my own thing too, and I'm guaranteeing a Jae Crowder trade sometime this season. It will happen. Just a matter of time.
I need to clip that and like upload it. Anytime someone says guarantee.
I guarantee that there will be a Jae Crowder trade this season. Be patient. That's what I have to say about that.
And you know what? That goes back to what I was saying too. Like, again, with all due respect to Jae Crowder, with all due respect to Kyle Kuzma, and I know the Suns fans are probably pissed at him, but James Jones, with all due respect to him, be patient, Suns fans. Like, again, it's not even December 15th yet. A lot of contracts cannot be traded as of right now. And the trade deadline's still, 2 months away? So just relax, Suns fans. You never know who's going to pick up the phone and call. You never know. The Suns, there's other pieces we could trade. But again, I wish I could look into the future. I wish I knew in hindsight what was going to happen with this team. But clearly we have a lot more issues than just Jae Crowder. And yeah. So anything else you want to talk about, man? Do you want to look at the standings at all? Is there a team you'd like to talk about? Because and in the chat, if you guys got any questions you want to throw at us, we're opening up to the chat right now. So anything that's been bugging you, Suns fans, let it out here. This is like therapy session, Q&A. Bring up some questions. What do you got, Super Mario?
Yeah, we can look at the standings in the chat, but I did want to ask you a question as well because
do you want me to pull up the standings or not?
You can pull it up, but it's like not about the standings or anything.
I got you.
So I mean, I'm just thinking about it. Like we talked about this game in particular tonight, and who I started with talking about for the Celtics was Blake Griffin, right? I mean, we know Blake Griffin. He's like a 6-time All-Star, multiple-time All-NBA, top 3 in MVP one year, first team All-NBA, I believe, 1 year, or second team or something like that. The point is, though, like, he's an elite player in NBA history. Of course, he had injuries and everything. And that's why some people think like he might not be a Hall of Fame level player. But if he keeps playing like this and the Celtics do win the championship, he won't be starting by that time, but maybe if he's like a quality bench player, do you think that guarantees him a spot in the Hall of Fame?
If he keeps playing like this, yes. Because I know that it's, quote, easy to make the Hall of Fame, which I've never really been a believer in. I get why they say that, because you can have like not so many awards, not even a championship and all that to get the Hall of Fame, but I feel like time, we sort of talked about this a little bit on your Baloney basketball episode, like durability and what's the word, longevity or whatever. Longevity. I feel like that does matter. So Blake Griffin can, and what was that? Was it like last year or a couple of years ago? He was like literally playing on one leg. Yeah. I think Romp talked about that. Like, that's another reason I love Blake Griffin, man, because he just seems to keep landing on rosters. He seems to keep playing. he's such a likable guy in my opinion. I mean, I've never met the guy, but he just seems like a fun dude. Yeah,
Mm.
if he keeps playing like this, providing productive minutes for championship teams, by the way, hell yeah, I think he could be a Hall of Famer. Let me pull up his basketball reference page. But I mean, you mentioned the
Yeah.
All-Star years. You said he was what, top 5 1 year in MVP
He
voting,
was he
correct?
was 3rd, in 2014. I remember
Wow.
that because Joakim Noah was 4th, Chicago Bull right there. Um,
I remember that too, actually.
yeah. But no, I was just wondering because personally for me, I feel like he is regardless. Like I feel like I'm a little bit more lax on like some of these players. I feel like he is regardless, but I think like if he wins a championship and he's playing at a decently solid level, I feel
Yeah,
like you
like
can't really
providing good
dispute it.
minutes. Yeah.
Like I feel like kind of same thing happened with Dwight Howard a couple
Here's
years
this
ago.
basketball reference page, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I personally like I've always kind of liked Blake Griffin a little bit. Like obviously not my favorite player in the league, but I mean I've never really had any problems with him. I don't get why people hated him. Like I feel like he got a lot of hate because like why he flopped or something. Like dude,
Yeah.
everyone flops, right?
Dude,
Like
injuries are real, man. Like,
everyone flops, everyone gets
yeah.
injured, and like I feel like there's nothing else you could really hate. Like maybe what because the Clippers didn't win a championship. Like
Yeah.
okay, think about like they were going up against like the big three Heat or like Kevin Durant, the Thunder, uh, the Warriors with Curry, and then when Durant went there and the Spurs and stuff, like you can't really be mad that they didn't win a championship over some of those teams. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but I don't know. Like
Um,
I feel like he deserves to make it.
6-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, which I feel like that's kind of important.
Mhm.
Let me just see. Career averages of 19, pretty much 20 points if you round it out. 8.2 rebounds. Four. He's averaged. Wait, I had to make sure I was reading that right. Career average of 4 assists, which is pretty good. Shooting
Mhm.
percentages, 49%. I don't know. I'm just looking at, because again, man, like when it comes to the Hall of Fame, they're going to count all that stuff.
And he was an
Obviously, he hasn't
all-star
won a
his first
championship
year too.
yet. What's that?
He was an all-star his first year too, and I think
Yeah,
also, like, what's important is that, like, literally his first his first 8 of his first 9 seasons in the league, um, he averaged 20 points a game or more.
real quick too, because I talked about this earlier. 733 games played in how many seasons? Like 14 or
Uh,
something?
yeah,
13?
I would say 14 because he missed
Yeah,
his whole first season.
exactly. So just wanted to bring that up. What was the stat you just said? I'm sorry. I heard it, but it didn't process.
Well, he averaged 20 points a game 8 of his first 9 seasons he played.
Damn, that matters too.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, he made second team All NBA 3 times and then third team All NBA twice. He was third in MVP once, then eighth another year, and then 10th another year. Um,
Now, look, I don't even want to pretend like I know what happens in terms of Hall of Fame voting, but I think that's why they have like the ballots. Like Chris Paul, first ballot Hall of Famer. Blake Griffin would be like a third or fourth. You know what I mean? Like it would probably take a few years to get him in
yeah,
there. We're
I
talking like
don't
the year
know.
2054.
One trend I've noticed, like when I look at that stuff, is that like the pool of like who gets into the Hall of Fame has also expanded over time. Like I look back like 20 years ago, maybe only 5 people or 4 people from every basketball league made it. Maybe like only one NBA player made it, or maybe two. Like now I feel like maybe 4 or so make it, 3 or 4 every year.
Yeah.
Like I feel like by the time he's eligible and he's retired, maybe like 10 years from now or something, like there might be like 6 people getting in every year. So I feel like that increases his odds as well to get in. Guys like him or like some of these other players that just kind of had like maybe similar resumes, maybe like never won a ring or um, maybe didn't have like too many years or something like the longevity, durability or something. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
feel like that matters. I know this
Mhm.
is like a bad kind of example because Bill Walton was kind of a Hall of Famer already prior to going to the
Mhm.
Celtics, but you know what I mean? Like he was
Right.
there and he was kind of noticeable on that team and was a nice little I don't want to say spark, but a nice presence for that championship team. I don't know
Mhm.
why that just kind of reminded me of that. Any final thoughts before we move on to this next question? Any final thoughts on Blake Griffin being a Hall of Famer? Because yeah, that's what we just talked about here, Suns fans. Because Suns were embarrassing tonight, so I opened up the chat to whatever.
No, I mean that was just my main question. I was just wondering like if maybe that a championship would like seal the deal.
Yeah,
But yeah,
probably because I mean it's a championship. I mean, dude, like I love John Stockton more than other people, and he never won a championship. Just saying. Lots of Suns. Nobody on my Suns wall ever won a championships. Well, I mean, Sean Marion did, but not with the Suns. Anyways, moving on here real quick. And again, we can wrap this up whenever, man, but we can really get to some of these questions if you want. We can keep going. Do you guys think that this is the final year for a championship for CP3 as a starter? So I feel like that's like two questions in one.
I'd say it should be the final year that he's on the team. If they don't, I don't know. Like this might be really controversial.
Yeah, this is a tough question from like
this
all
might
angles.
be like a very controversial take, but I feel like if the Suns have a season where they get bounced like just as early as they did last season, like second round or something like that, because you got to think about how many. Suns are great, and right now they've been like the top team in the West for a majority of the year. But at the same time, like you can't discount these other teams like the Clippers, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, the Nuggets, the Pelicans. Of course, they're number one right now.
The NBA is wide open.
So like I feel like there's a lot of teams coming, and there's also young teams too that like in a couple of years from now, like what are the Thunder gonna look like? I mean, next year, like the Thunder could get Wembanyama. And they're going to have Chet Holmgren, too,
right?
Both coming in next year. And Shea's already playing like a superstar.
Plus some other young talent they can build around, like a billion draft picks they could trade.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of, like these teams, too. Like, I don't know. There's just so many teams. And if they're like maybe a second round exit again, like it's like we're not even the best in our conference. We're not even the runner up to the best in our conference at this point.
We're getting fucking embarrassed like we did the last two nights.
We gotta change it up for the future to keep competing for long term. So I don't know. I feel like Chris Paul. I don't know. Like especially if he keeps playing like this, like it might just be. He might just find himself not on the team. Like they might trade him, or I don't know what his contract. He signed like a 4-year deal, right?
Yeah. To my knowledge, I know 2 of those years may not be guaranteed, at least fully guaranteed. I know for sure one of them isn't. Because I think that's where some Suns fans kind of panicked when they saw the Chris Paul stuff go down. Because I think, look, I know that you don't like Landry Shamet, but same thing with Landry Shamet. A couple of those years are not guaranteed. Same thing with Chris Paul. So just wanted to throw that out there.
All I'm gonna say is just don't be surprised if, like, say the Suns do have an exit like that this offseason. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul starts finding his name in trade rumors across like the media.
Yeah.
Like he's like almost like how you're seeing like with Jae Crowder right now. Now he won't be sitting out like that, obviously. But
that's what I was gonna bring up too.
Yeah, like it won't be because of that, but you'll see his name in rumors about as much as Jae Crowder next season if it's an exit like that. If they win the championship this year, then obviously that's not going to happen.
Oh, we'll be having a completely different conversation.
Yeah, like then he'll probably be there till he retires. But yeah.
First off, Danger, thank you so much for the great question. You've been in the chat before. You've always brought up good points and asked great questions like this. I feel like for someone like me, this is a little tricky to answer. Because as we saw tonight, Chris Paul does want to play. I'm sure if Chris Paul ran the Suns like LeBron runs the Lakers, he probably would have played earlier. You know what I mean? Because he pretty much told Chris Haynes that he wanted to play earlier. Anyways, this is really tricky because, as I mentioned, Chris Paul does want to play. But I wonder if team success eventually starts to come into question. I'm not saying if the Suns are a second round exit, they're going to blow it up and trade Chris Paul and trade Ayton and blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's going to happen.
I think the door would be open for it, though, more so. Like, at least with Chris Paul.
But, like, and this is also where it gets tricky. He is getting up there in age, and I don't want to use the age thing. Chris Paul's 37. He's 38. He's going to retire soon. I don't know, man.
I'm just thinking, like, too, like, And the only reason I say, like, for Chris Paul in particular is not just because, like, what he does at a high level isn't necessary to this team. Like, his playmaking, I know he obviously didn't have a great game tonight, but his playmaking is still, like, up there with one of the best in the league. But you gotta think more long term and, like, where this team's going. Like, Devin Booker's, what, 26?
Yeah.
DeAndre Ayton's, like, what, 24,
24,
23, something like that?
Yeah, he's pretty
Mikal
young.
Bridges is, like, 26. Like, all these guys are, like, young and maybe haven't even hit their prime yet. Like,
Yeah.
Chris Paul is well past his prime. He's getting a decent amount of money, and maybe there's another team out there that might want him for, like, a one-year rental that might wanna win a championship.
OKC Thunder, and he led them to the playoffs.
I think maybe a team like Miami. Miami's kinda desperate right now, right? I would say so. Like, I could see them taking a gamble on him for, like, 1 year, maybe, like, one last ride with Jimmy Butler and Bam and all those guys and Lowry and whatever, Oladipo, whoever, like, something like that. Not them necessarily, but that's, like, an option. I just feel like you have to consider that more next season when he's gonna be, like, what, 38, 30, something like that.
Real quick, can I throw this at you? And I'm sorry to cut you off again.
Mhm.
Let's say Chris Paul stays like 85% healthy. And you know how you mentioned Cam Johnson's not really in his prime yet. Booker's still young, yada, yada, yada. Do you think maybe Chris Paul hangs around and kind of does, I hate to use this reference, but Tom Brady's hangs around and is like a 40-something-year-old point guard. Udonis Haslem, you know what I mean? He's like hanging out with the team and stays with the Suns. Like, that's kind of why I mentioned Chris Paul loves to play basketball and he loves the Phoenix Suns. So unless things go from bad to worse to the team is crumbling and all that, would you maybe consider Chris Paul sticking around on low contracts? You know what I mean? Just like being a veteran for this team, being like the Udonis Haslem or Tom Brady of our team,
Yeah, I think, like, that's what I was gonna say. Like, that would work if he can, like, become a Paul Millsap in a way. Like,
yeah, like a
remember, like,
veteran.
Millsap got that huge deal with Denver, and then it kind of, like, broke it up a little bit
Is Paul
to make
Millsap
it.
still in the league? I totally
No,
forgot about it.
no. But they, like, broke it up a little bit so that it was more friendly for the team at the time, and he was still kind of like a veteran for them until he got sent. I think he went to Brooklyn after that, and then now he's out of the league. But or actually, I think he went to Philly. No, he went to Brooklyn. I
Yeah,
think
he was
first.
on Philly for
Then
a
he
little
went to
bit.
Philly.
Yeah.
In the Harden Simmons deal
Yeah.
last year. But, like, if Chris Paul can do that, then sure. Now, I don't know if Chris Paul, I don't know. I just can't see him doing that. Like, I can't see him, like, being like the Udonis Haslem on a team, like averaging like maybe like 3 points and like 3 assists or 2
Right.
assists off the bench. Like,
because he's eventually going to want to win too.
I feel like he's always going to be a guy who at least has a meaningful spot on a team. Like,
Yeah.
he'll at least probably get you 7 points and 7 assists until the time he retires.
Yeah.
Something like that. So
That's
I
fair.
just can't see that.
That's why I threw that question at you. I feel like you had a better answer than I would have. But I feel like that's a good question though, because I feel like my question bounced off Danger's question. And again, we just don't know. I mean, to answer the first part of his question, do you think this is the final year for a championship? Probably not. I mean, the Suns are probably still going to be good next year. Just we got to figure out what happens this season. We got to worry about next game and games in January, and got to make it out the freaking West this year, man. Like, okay, real quick, I was talking to Philly Take with RB, and I know the Sixers have had a roller coaster of a season, and probably still will be. But he pretty much said there's no excuse that the Sixers shouldn't at least make the finals. And I said the same thing. There's no excuse the Suns shouldn't make the finals. But that was really before we started opening our eyes and seeing how open the Western Conference and Eastern Conference is. Well, no, because the Celtics are going to win the East. But you get my point.
Yeah.
I think the Suns have to. I think it's Western Conference. I know there's championship or bust, but really, I think it's Western Conference Finals or bust. We cannot get eliminated in the second round. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to answer Danger's question as best I can, as non-biased as I can. This is an amazing question. Like, I don't know, man.
I think too, like, I feel like the team is going to matter a lot. Like, I feel like
he's not going to play for a losing team. He's not.
Well,
except for maybe OKC.
I feel like if the Suns were to get eliminated like in the Western Conference playoffs, it would matter like which team does it, like for their
Facts.
reputation. Like if the
Facts.
Clippers are 100% and they eliminate the Suns, I don't think people are going to be surprised. I also don't think people will be surprised if the Warriors did, just
Well, yeah,
because
because they're
those
the defending
teams.
champions. Yeah.
I mean, those teams are led by players who have proven it, like Kawhi and Curry and stuff like that. But if another team like, I mean, maybe even Denver could like fit in that mold too. But I mean, if Dallas did it again with how bad that roster is around Luca, or like Portland with, like they kind of just came out of the blue again this year. Um, I don't know, like New Orleans, especially and how young they are, like it would kind of like throw people for a loop, and then it would become a big thing. So yeah.
Real quick, Andy says, well, guys, anyways, I'm a Mavs fan, but I remember the good old days of Alvin Adams, who's on my wall right there, Paul Westphal, the triple overtime game against the Celtics, arguably the greatest basketball game ever played, and the Barkley, KJ Marley, etc. Phoenix was my original team. Well, I would like to hear your story about why you're a Mavericks fan now, but anyways, I just thought I'd bring that comment up because we got some legends on my wall, and I wonder
No,
what these legends would have said about tonight's game.
never forget Gar heard the shot heard around the
Did
world.
you see that on the broadcast tonight? I'm glad they paid tribute to that, man. And look, as
Yeah,
much as I criticized ESPN over the years, they do a great job of showing love to Al McCoy, who's also on my wall right there. 51 years on the broadcast. He literally is the voice of the Suns. It's
jeez.
amazing. They're always showing love to Al McCoy, man. I met Al McCoy for like 2 seconds one day in a parking lot. It was awesome, man. He's a nice dude. He's always showing love to the fans and everything. But I don't know. I just thought I'd bring up that comment because it made me laugh. Well, guys, I'm a Mavs fan. I remember the good old Alvin Adams days. That's great. I love it. There was another comment. Did you see any good comments or questions in here? Because there was sort of one that played along with Danger's question, and I lost it. I think it was something like, "Can we win a championship this year?" I'm like, dude, I don't know, man. Like the NBA is so open right now. I'm just trying to see if I missed any
Someone
questions.
said nobody wants a 39-year-old CP3 this year or anytime in the future. He will be overseas with Dwight Howard and Melo.
Nah, that person's just being a hater. Because you
That's
said that, dude.
crazy.
Like someone's gonna take a. It's Chris freaking Paul, dude. Okay, I had to legit mute this person, and I can unmute him and look at the argument. But basically, somebody tweeted to me saying like James Jones. Look, I legit screenshotted it. I'll pull it up. And
I
this was
think
like,
the
good.
difference between those, though, is that Chris Paul's always contributed to winning in some degree. I know he doesn't have a ring, but he's always put your team in a situation that you're
I,
going to be successful.
I got to full
Like,
screen this real quick. Just look at my screen. I should have like screenshotted it and uploaded it. But he said, I said, "Hey, James Jones, are you watching this?" And he said, "No, he's not. James Jones is legitimately useless as a GM. Hasn't made a single team-changing move as GM." And I'm like, "What?" And then that started the Aussie Suns fan podcast. Shout out to them. A big old argument because he responded to me saying, "Dude, this guy's like trolling and he's a hater." And then I think Dave King got involved, and it's a wreck. Like Suns Twitter is in legit chaos right now. I don't know why I brought that up, but
yeah.
this person's wrong, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is very wrong.
Because I guess Chris Paul is not a game-changing move or any move at all. Chris Paul's apparently the worst point guard in the league.
Yeah.
It's
But no,
frustrating.
he's not gonna be overseas. Like, see, the thing with Melo is, he can get you 10, 15 offensively even today, but his defense is what's gonna bring him down. The thing with Dwight Howard, I mean, even though I think Dwight Howard should still be on a roster, like he's had
Fact.
several years now where he kind of is just like a role player per se. Like, I mean, Chris Paul, like literally last year, I still remember, and I don't mean that I guess diminish from Booker's great season last year, but before Chris Paul got hurt, like he was the one getting a majority of the love in MVP talks for the Suns last year. And just like the year before, like the last 2 years up until he had like that injury in like February or March, or I don't remember when. But I know he missed a month like near the later half of the year. And then like that's when people started paying more attention to Book. But people forget like that was in 2022 that people were doing that. That was literally earlier this calendar year that people were saying that. So
Yeah.
to give up on him that quickly, uh, especially, I mean, he was contributing at the best level, for the best record in the NBA as an MVP caliber player. Like, I think it's crazy to say when he's 39. I mean, that's 2 years from now. Like, there's no chance that he'll be out of the NBA by that time unless he chooses to walk away from the game.
Yeah.
They say a lot. Like, I think actually Barkley, you said this the other day, like, or I think it was actually Skip Bayless, believe it or not, something rare that he said that actually like made sense. But no, like he said, like the great ones choose when to walk away from the game.
Yeah.
The good ones, the game walks away from you.
Amen.
So,
yeah.
And I think
like
Chris
that.
Paul is, he's great enough of a legend. I mean, he's at least a top 40, top 35 player in NBA history, probably close to a top 5 point guard of all time, in my opinion. So, I mean, he's definitely up there. And he will get to choose probably when he wants to walk away from the game, not the game choosing him.
Real quick, call me a basketball optimist, but I still have I don't even know if it's a theory, but I still have a thought that like your LaMarcus Aldridges or Carmelos or Dwights might get signed sooner rather than later, especially with the way the NBA is panning out right now. Just wanted to kind of carry off your thought real quick. Also, Mark Cooper, great chat member, great fan, supporter of mine and everything. He says, do you have John McLeod or Cotton Fitzsimmons on your wall? Two of the greatest Suns coaches in Suns history. I do not have them on my wall, and I need to get them on my wall. Just wanted to address that comment real quick. Our guy,
Alec Peters.
What?
Also need to get Alec Peters.
I have a video on his best game as a professional on my channel. Just had to plug that real quick. Anyways, our guy Romp 2.0 is in here. Also has a great Sixers channel called Sixers Talk with Romp. Suns need Terry Rozier. You know what, Romp? The Suns need a lot of things right now. So please help. Send help, Romp. Anything. Like we need something, man.
Suns need Kobe White.
Because if he can give us 8 threes, I'll take him.
He'll give you 8 attempts.
Ooh,
I can't
just real quick. Dude, the Suns 3-point shooting this year. I guess Monty wanted them to let it fly. And I don't know what we are in attempts, like 3-point attempts per game, but they're not going in, man. And even when they do,
I got the stats actually right here. They're 10th in 3-point attempts.
Yeah. But there's some nights it doesn't even feel like it, man. Maybe it's because they're not going in consistently enough. I don't even know what percentage we're shooting from 3.
Actually, you guys are actually 3rd in 3-point percentage.
If you would have told me that before the game, because Bally Sports posted a graphic like the Celtics are 1st in points, Suns are 7th. You're right. We are 3rd. The Celtics are 1st.
I know what it's like
in net rating. That makes no sense.
I know what it's like to not have 3-point shooting. The Bulls rank 28th of 30 teams in 3-point makes, and we rank 30th, dead last in 3-point attempts. So there you go.
Can I just read this comment real quick? Celtics fan here. Great win for us, but I really want the Celtics to fucking hammer the Lakers.
Hey, everyone
you're
does.
You're a real Celtics fan, sir. Thank you for the nice comment.
Everyone does. Even non-Celtics fans all
I feel like Suns and Celtics fans can come together on this one comment and agree on this.
I think all 29 teams can come together to hate on the Lakers.
Let me just see if I'm missing anything.
It's the only thing that brings joy to me as a Bulls fan right now.
Jason says, need Cam Johnson back. Yeah, we need Cam Johnson back. I don't know, man. Ooh, Jose brings up a good point. And somebody in my comment section brought this up too. He says, see, it could be worse. Someone in my comment section after the Mavericks loss, he said, he left a comment saying, this was a good laugh. He's like, try being a New York Knicks fan. I was like, yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just had to bring that up. But after tonight, I'm just so ashamed.
And I know what worse is too.
Exactly, being a Bulls fan.
I don't think there's anything worse than that right now. I mean, it's close. That's like near rock bottom right now.
Just real quick in the chat, you guys get your last minute comments, questions in. Super Mario, you got anything else, man? I'm trying just to see if I can see if there's anything else to talk about, really.
We could look at the standings real quick and
let's pull up the standings. So get your guys' comments and questions in right away. We had a really good segment with Danger's question. It kept us going a long time. Appreciate the great question, Danger. So that way there's no dead air on here and we're trying to like find content to talk about. But yeah, let's just pull up the standings real quick. Any teams stand out to you, man? Any teams you want me to like focus on right here? These are the updated standings. We talked all night about how great the Celtics are. You got to show love to the Bucks. We'll start with the Eastern Conference, I guess. Cavs, you know, they were struggling for a short amount of time, but they're 7-3 in their last 10. Any teams you want to talk about, focus on?
Yeah, I mean, Donovan Mitchell, I mean, he kind of struggled over he had a 4 or 5 game stretch where he struggled, but he's responded since. He had a season high the other night against the
Cavs
Lakers.
as a team were struggling for a while.
Yeah. I don't know. Like the Hawks, I see them at 5th, and they probably think they're okay. Like
they
with
blew
that,
it tonight, man.
They just
I watched some of that game. They blew it.
They just aren't. I don't trust them as a team personally, and I don't know if you saw the thing last week where Trae Young like intentionally sat out.
Dude, what happened with that? I kind of saw some of that and read the headlines and all, but that's bad, dude.
The story of what happened is apparently like he was getting like treatment for his shoulder or something like, and then Nate McMillan asked him like, "Are you going to participate in shoot around?" And then Trae Young's like, "Well, I'm getting treatment on my shoulder, so no." And so his rule is if you don't participate in the shoot around like the day of the game, like earlier in the day, you either have to come off the bench or you're not allowed to play at all for that day.
Yeah.
And rather than, just coming off the bench, taking a little shot, he just decided I'm not going to play this game. And I feel like it was a little bit of like a pride thing as well, just because he's never
definitely some like friction headbutting there. Yeah.
He started every game of his career. I went through and checked to make sure like maybe that was a thing that he was thinking of. And I think it might have been, but now people are questioning his leadership, and you already got like the John Collins rumors, and like they're forced into like starting AJ Griffin right now.
Bogdanovich rumors too, a little bit.
Bogdanovich, like that team, I just feel like they're a mess. I feel like they're gonna start falling like very soon. They played really easy teams, and they're 13-12, but everyone wants to. I know like the Timberwolves are an easy target, and rightfully so, because they're 12-12 and they played easy teams. But I mean, the Hawks are 13-12. And they've played a really easy teams too, but nobody wants to talk about that apparently.
Well, also you kind of brought this up a little bit, like as you were saying that stuff, I was looking at like the Hawks are 13-12, but like the Knicks are 12-13, the Sixers are 12-12. Like it's not much of a gap. If they fall a little bit, they're really gonna fall.
And I think the Heat, I think the Heat are done.
And you talked about this with your Bulls just real quick before you talk about the Heat. You said if your Bulls go on a winning streak, they could jump the standings.
Well, and they play easy teams. Like they play the Knicks twice. They really should beat the Knicks. They play the Timberwolves, who are without Cat. They host the Mavericks, who have been struggling this season, especially on the road.
Yeah.
They go to Miami. They've already beat them in Miami this season. I'm trying to think who else they play. They play I think the Rockets coming up.
I think you mentioned the Rockets. Yeah.
Like these are all winnable games for the Bulls, and realistically, we should be 8-1 in our next 9 games. But I don't see any reason why we can't be at least 6-3.
Yeah,
and that would put us almost like right back at 500. So
that's what I'm saying. Like the East is wide open, man. You go on a little bit of a win streak, and teams drop.
Yeah. But no, the Heat, I don't know. I think the Heat like need to just blow it up. Like they don't seem like that team. They just don't. They seem like they're missing a lot. And I gotta give credit to Jimmy like last year because of what he did. And bringing him there. But I feel like he also kind of gets a little bit of a pass now. Like when we talk about like Kawhi's injuries and AD's injuries or whatever, like how come no one talks about Jimmy Butler, who seems really injury prone lately? Yeah. Like, I don't know, man. I get people that like Jimmy or something, but I don't know. It just seems a little biased.
Like, real quick, when we were talking about like Griffin's Hall of Fame chances, like maybe same thing with Jimmy Butler. He's had a lot of injuries and everything. Right. I just don't see that same. Like, I'm not saying. Like, I know it's still early. I don't really know if the Heat are like necessarily a threat.
No, like, not at all.
I just don't see that. And sure, they beat the Suns and everything. That was just one game. Like, I don't see them as like a legit threat. Like the teams I mentioned earlier, like Celtics, Cavs, Bucks, and then maybe the Nets if they put all that chaos behind them.
that whole top 4 and also the Sixers, I think, because of Embiid,
Yeah,
are all
Sixers. Yeah, I can't
definitely
forget. Yeah.
they're all definitely bigger threats than the
Yep.
Heat. Like, I wouldn't even 'cause I think the Heat are more in the tier with the Raptors, the Hawks, and my Bulls if they ever
Yeah.
get it together, like, right now, so
Yep. That's why I wanted to bring up the standings and get your thoughts on any teams. And kind of like we talked about last time, shout out to the Pacers, who are somehow 13-12. And just like I
yeah.
said last time, if you would have told me that on December 8th, 2022, I would have said you're nuts.
Better
They're
record than the
13 and
Warriors.
12. Yeah. Let's get to the Western Conference real quick. Um, and I mentioned this earlier, man. And I cannot say this enough on this channel. The Pelicans are legit, and they
Mhm.
are a really good team. 5-game
Yep.
winning streak, 8-2 in their last 10.
And I think Zion deserves some more credit, like, with MVP talks too. I know he doesn't put up the flashy numbers per se that you
Well,
see
those
these other
numbers
guys
are
doing,
pretty good.
but he's efficient,
Yep.
and like, he strikes me as just a guy who's all about winning, and
Yeah.
I think, like, this is why you're probably gonna see the Pelicans as a winning team for several years to come. And I
Yep.
don't know, I think personally, like, if you're playing that good already, you're playing that efficient, that effective, like, I don't see how you can't reward a guy like that, at least to be in the discussion for MVP. Like, I feel like, yeah, maybe he's not, like, as high as Tatum or Luca or Giannis or whatever, but, like, maybe, like, top 10. I mean, the best record
Yeah.
in the West right now, and even before tonight, like, still when they were second, like, I still didn't get, like, why people seems like everyone wants to hype up, like, Ja right now, and this is no disrespect to Ja, but
Grizzlies are playing better too, in all
they have
fairness.
played better
Yeah.
too. I think that's also more of a Taylor Jenkins thing
Yeah.
as well too. I think he deserves credit,
Yeah.
because Ja's also missed a couple games. Desmond Baines missed a couple games. Like, they did it last year just like this, and
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing right now, just different guys being out. But,
Yep.
I think what Zion's done, and also Ingram, can't forget him too.
Yeah. He's been balling,
Um,
man.
they've been playing great, and if they did end up being the first seed at All-Star break, like, I think both those guys get in the All-Star game.
Yeah,
A lot
man.
of time left, but still.
I know I'm very repetitive when it comes to the Pelicans, but I'm just pointing out the facts, man. Again, Willie Green is a great coach. He established that last year. He kind of established that when he was with the Suns, being an assistant coach and all that. That's why he got the job. I remember I forgot what the game was, but pretty much, I think Monty got ejected and Willie Green pretty much led us to the win. That was when I kind of really started recognizing Willie Green, despite all the great things I heard about him. But regardless, they almost beat us. They have so much talent on that team. You
Mhm.
mentioned your Zion, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and then just some of their younger guys. Trey Murphy, Herb Jones is a lockdown defender, Jose Alvarado. Didn't he have like 38 points the other night?
Yep.
Probably a couple
Yeah, he
guys
went
that I'm
off.
forgetting about. I think they have some draft picks. I know they got that Lakers pick and all that.
Yeah,
I give
that's the
credit
best
to
one.
David Griffin because I remember at one point there was a time I thought David Griffin was going to get fired. And just real quick on a comment you made, you said with Zion, you said that you said that you think he loves to play basketball. Like,
Mhm.
dude, I've seen a lot of interviews with Zion. I know it's just interviews and all that. I agree with
How do
you.
people not like him?
Like that's what,
You know
dude.
what I mean?
He is legit a likable guy. If you just like
Mm,
sit down and listen to him, I'm not saying he's like 100% right on everything, but he seems like a really smart dude. He loves to play basketball. I'm glad the Pelicans culture got better and they started winning and getting winning players. And I love the Pelicans, man. I'm sorry, Suns fans. I got to be real. I love the Pelicans team, man.
yeah.
They're good.
And we still got people saying, like, even in your comments, like, Zion is a tub by NBA standards. Like, okay, but
Leo, with all due respect, man, go watch some more basketball. Go watch some more Zion, man.
yeah. I mean, I think also though, like, other teams, like, I do want to shout out the Jazz because they pulled off probably the most improbable, not just for their whole season, but tonight they
Yep.
probably had the most improbable win I've seen all season. Like, they literally were throwing the game so hard near the end, and in the last 20 seconds, they basically destroyed the Warriors. Like, I've
Yep.
never seen a team, at least so far this season, get destroyed in the last 20 seconds of a game quite like that. Um, Maybe my Bulls, like when they lost to the Magic, is a close second. But I don't know. It was just insane. And then, of course, you got the Kings, lighting the beam and everything.
Can
Like,
I
they've
just say something real
insane.
quick about the Jazz?
Go ahead.
15 wins.
Mhm.
15 wins. And kind of like in the Eastern Conference, I get it. If you lose a few games, you could drop. But they have 15 wins, dude. That's
Yep.
insane. The Suns have
They're playing unreal.
16.
Yeah.
Dude,
And
this is one of the weirdest NBA seasons like ever.
they have a better record than the two teams that most picked to win the Western Conference before the year, the Clippers and the Warriors. That at this part of the season, I mean, yeah, 27 games. It might seem like nothing, but that's a third of the season, right? Like that's still crazy. I also still think like I'm still believing in Portland. I mean, Dame just came back the other night and he looked good. So if Dame is available, like Portland's going to be a team up there. Like Simons is playing insane. Jeremy Grant's playing insane. Shaden Sharp's playing well off the bench, and their
I
defense,
like Shaden Sharp a lot.
their coaching, and everything like
Yeah.
that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple weeks, like they find themselves in the top 6 firmly.
They just
Which
need
is
to stay healthy, man.
which I feel like is bold to say, even because there's so many teams in the West. But I feel like they're a lock for a top 6 team if healthy.
Yep.
Like they've just been that good this year. Just need everyone to be out there.
And I know this is a pretty easy narrative to say about the Blazers, but it's true. Like you can't blame Chauncey Billups for last year. Like they were just injured and they went in a completely new direction. And I think that was good for the Trailblazers. And I always felt like I always get his name wrong. Anthony Simons.
Yeah.
I always felt like they legit believed in him for the right reasons, and now it's paying off. Like the dude is a legit scorer. You know what I mean? He can play, man.
Mhm.
So I like what the Blazers are doing. It's like they're rebuilding, but they're not. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm gonna respond to Derek here in the comments who said,
see what Derek said.
Pelicans are a first round exit. Luka with a broken foot or Curry with a broken hand would kill
Derek,
them.
stop trolling, man. You're
I think
nuts,
you could give Luka a third foot or in a third hand,
right?
And the Mavericks will still lose.
Give Luka a 10-foot wingspan, they would still lose.
They're not beating the Pelicans, not this year.
Derek,
and as for the Warriors, there's absolutely no chance, especially considering this Warriors team. I mean, Curry with a broken hand. Did you not see the Warriors tonight? How bad they choked against the Utah Jazz, who likely won't even be in the playoffs.
You don't even need cable or a streaming service. Just go onto YouTube, look up those highlights, and watch the Warriors. I'm gonna go back and watch that game later.
Yeah,
like they blew it.
Yeah.
Real quick, and I promise we can get out of here whenever because we've already gone long enough. But just real quick.
We always go long, but
I really want to know what the hell happened to Bridges' defense. I don't want to make excuses for the Suns team, but Bridges did have that knee problem recently, just saying. And Booker did tweak his ankle the other night. That's no excuse for getting blown out on back-to-back nights, but just saying to answer Derek's question. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Any other teams, final thoughts you want to talk about? Anything else? I mean, we still got a couple minutes, then we can get out of here.
I mean, the Spurs have just been awful. Like they've lost 11 in a row now after they kind of started off good. I think actually their franchise record for losses in a row is 13. So
they're pushing it 11 right now.
A week from now, like we might be talking about them setting a franchise record and not in the right way.
Dude, I would have to pull up the clip or the quote, but didn't Greg Popovich legit say I would not bet on the Spurs this year? I swear to God that came out of Popovich's mouth. That's insane.
I mean, like
that's insane.
I think they know it too. Like they're just kind of there to play. Like a lot of them are young. I mean, I got to give credit to. I mean, Keldon Johnson started the year off pretty well, and I think Devin Vassell has like really played well.
I've heard he's been playing well, but I haven't seen much of him, but I heard he's been playing well.
Jakob Poeltl too, but I feel like he was kind of playing well last year.
I've always been a fan of Jakob Poeltl. He's like a serviceable center, like no matter where he goes.
Future Chicago Bull Jakob Poeltl.
Future Phoenix Sun. No, just kidding. No, I agree with you on the Spurs though. Lakers kind of playing better, but
Lakers are back. They're back to normal.
Let me just say this before you talk about the Lakers. I said this like in a TikTok of all places. I said, even though they're playing better, they're still so far down. But kind of like I've been saying a couple times tonight, you go on a win streak, maybe. I mean, they got 10 wins.
Well,
Anthony Davis is playing like crazy right now.
the thing is too with the Lakers is they've lost so many of their games in conference as well. Like
Yeah.
right now, like they don't have the tiebreaker over the Timberwolves. They don't have it over the Warriors. They don't have it over the Clippers, the
They are
Blazers.
6-10 in their conference.
They don't have it over the Jazz. I don't believe they have it. Well, they don't have it over the Nuggets because they're 1-1, and the other tiebreaker goes to
Oh
them.
god, we got the bots in here.
Don't have it over Phoenix. And yeah, they do have it over the Pelicans, I believe, but look how far the Pelicans are ahead of them. You think they're catching them? Not a chance.
No, exactly.
Same thing with Phoenix and Memphis. Probably every team ahead of them, really. I mean, OKC they could probably catch, but
are they a
team
playing team?
No.
Like if you are a betting man, would you put money on them?
I wouldn't put money on them making the play-in. Like the Spurs, Rockets, those teams are going to be below them. Same thing probably the Thunder.
Yeah.
And maybe the Timberwolves because of Cat's injury, but that's the only reason why. Every other team above them is just better. You know, like, and I even think even if they have like maybe one kind of crucial injury, that they could still play around it.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't see it happening. I mean, the Clippers, how many injuries have the Clippers had this year? And look at where they're at. And look at how they played against the Lakers.
And Kawhi actually played in back-to-back games, if I'm correct. I know he hit that game winner the other night.
It was back-to-back games, but they do have a back-to-back tomorrow with Miami, so doubt he plays in that one.
Right. They're 14 and 12. I mean, that's got to be worth something.
They rested a lot of guys tonight, like Wall and Kennard and stuff, so they'll probably play tomorrow, but they shouldn't have lost tonight. They really blew that game. They had an 18-point lead on the Magic in the first quarter, and they lost in overtime. But I don't get it because Tyronn Lue, he didn't play Kawhi or Paul George most of the overtime. It was really weird. Like, and it couldn't have been a minutes restriction because they came in with like a minute left in the overtime or so when it was like basically over. Like, I don't get it. Like, dude, it's a game you need to win. You know, just put them in there. Like at that point, minutes restrictions go out the door. Like you gotta win when you have a game like this.
Yep. Especially if you're supposed to be a contender in the West and you're supposed you have all these great players and Kawhi and Paul George and all that. Like you gotta do that.
Yeah, that kind of irked me. But yeah.
Real quick, sort of relates to what you said. Sort of, not really. I tweeted this out earlier. The Suns were legit down 40 points, and Monty Williams still had the starters in. I think that sums up the game right there. So just had to throw that out there because you were talking about Ty Lue and his rotations and all that, and it reminded me of that.
Yeah, the Suns, I think their biggest deficit of the season prior to this was 23 points in any game. And the Celtics, their biggest lead in the game tonight was double that. So that sums up everything.
Yep. Well, I think that's it, man. I feel like we did a pretty good job of covering the NBA too. Like we should do this more often. But real talk, man, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing most of the talking tonight because I was just my brain was mush and I was just so frustrated. I didn't even really like let out that frustration necessarily, but I just legit hope the Suns were kicking themselves in the locker room. I hope they quit making excuses and address all these problems. I don't even know what they said after the game. I don't even care. Like, I don't know, man. But anyways, hopefully the Suns play better against their, as I'm calling it, a playoff series against the Pelicans, because we play them like 3 times within this whole week and everything. Shout out to Danger, man. He asked that great question. He said, "Great stream, guys. This has been sick." Thank you, Danger. Your one question made a huge content. We just were talking, and that's great content right there. So I appreciate you, man. Suns fans, I will say this: as frustrating as tonight has been, as frustrated as I am, it's a long season. Just relax. We cannot play like this, and hopefully things get better. Hopefully the team changes. Hopefully Crowder gets traded. And as I said last time, win or lose, Phoenix Suns for life. Super Mario Hoops, my guest here. You're a content creator. You do your NBA videos. Anything you want to plug before we get out of here, man?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I make my own videos. Super Mario Hoops 24. got a new episode of Baloney Basketball coming out tomorrow. Last week, obviously, had my guy Sons Geek on. Tomorrow, actually have a very familiar face of this channel as well on. So, I think you
Wonder
guys.
who it is.
I wonder who. But yeah, so
Is it Jae
definitely want to
Crowder?
stay tuned for that. Yep. It's
It's Jae
Jae
Crowder.
Crowder.
You're gonna reveal it's an exclusive interview on why he's not playing.
It's Frank Kaminsky. No, no, but yeah, I that's what I got going on. I guess for my channel tomorrow, and yeah, subscribe if you want to
Yep.
get some also good NBA content. I'm gonna come out, I think, with more like the talk video, like just regular NBA talks soon. In the last week, like I'm in finals week, like in a couple days. So once that's passed, I'll be getting like more and more like different content in. So definitely want to stay tuned.
Well, make sure to go subscribe Super Mario Hoops 24 on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter as well. I meant to do this last time, but I'll plug all that stuff in the description below. I'm lazy when it comes to adding the links, but go check him out. Seriously, he's a great follow, great content creator, good friend of the channel too, man. Thank you again for just being here last minute and accepting my invite. And like Jose said, we did well together. Great commentary. It was a great show. Thank you, Mark Cooper, for being here. Thanks to everybody. Thank you, Danger, for your great question. Y'all are awesome. Stay positive, Suns fans. Hopefully things get better. Phoenix Suns for life, no matter what. Thank you guys so much for watching. Destroy that like button. Follow me on TikTok. I just passed 600 followers on TikTok. I love what I'm doing over there. And a new reacting to Phoenix Suns Twitter episode is coming out tomorrow, and it's going to be a doozy. So until then, peace out. Go Suns. God bless.